I'm going to teach you now an important metaphysical principle in the power of water. As we read this week's Torah portion of Metzora, you're probably going to notice very quickly that all ritual purification is done with water. And this happens again and again and again. We're reading all about, every time in the Torah you should pass it through water, you should pass it through water. And this is of course usually a mikveh, which is a body of natural water, rainwater, which has never been in a vessel. Why is water so powerful? What is it about water? So the Kabbalists say that God, when he created the forces of impurity and the demonic forces, he never put them in water. He only put them on the earth. The water was always devoid of impurity, and it always will be. And it's actually hinted to in the Torah, in the Bible. Zechariah 13:2 says that when the Messiah will come, we'll enter this new age of world peace and harmony. The spirit of impurity will depart the earth. Notice that it departs the earth. It doesn't have to leave the water. It only has to leave the earth because the water is always pure. And that is why, even when we have a shower, a bath, even if it's not a religious experience, but there's always that cleansing feeling, not just a physical cleansing, because water is devoid of impurity. Rabbi Isaac Luria writes at length the Kabbalistic thoughts you're supposed to have when you have a shower before the Sabbath, because there is a tremendous, tremendous power to water. Chapter 14, verse 34, we read about the impurity, the tsarat, which was this mystical disease where clothed people and houses got afflicted. This Torah portion is about houses with these blemishes, and if it got really bad, you had to smash down your house. Now that could be very unfortunate, unless you happen to be a lucky one, and some wealthy Amorites used to live there, and they stashed away all their gold behind the walls, and when you smash down your house, you find the gold. That's actually what happened to many owners of houses. And that's the kind of biblical example of a blessing in disguise, as the Zohar says. Now, here's an interesting thing. Why should it be, this is like winning the lottery basically, why should it be that the vehicle through which you won the lottery was an impure house? Your house had to be declared by the rabbi, well the priest to be precise, had to be declared impure to the extent you're not even allowed to live in it. It's a cursed house, and then all of a sudden you find all this gold? It's weird that such a source of blessing should be found in such a spiritually undesirable place. But that's the point. Fundamental metaphysical rule number 2. The higher something is, the lower it falls. The reason why that a physical lottery was found in this very, very undesirable house was because the great blessing of wealth and the great blessing of transformation of our lives with a more comfortable lifestyle came through that very, very low place. And it's a message in our lives, not just about houses and about money and about gold, but about the unexpected things in your life. Sometimes lurking in your darkest character traits is gold. Sometimes lurking in what you think is your most deviant behavior form is actually going to be the secret which is going to turn around your life. So remember, the higher something is, the lower it falls. Look in the dark parts of your life for hidden gems, which you never knew were there, and never looked for them because you never imagined they could be found in such a location. Now, health in general is a very interesting subject. And when we're speaking about tsarat, which is a kind of biblical, miraculous disease, it's our thoughts turn to the diseases that we have nowadays, which are obviously less miraculous and less religiously related, but are they? Are they separate from our spirituality? And of course they're not. Even doctors now are realizing that we need to have a more holistic approach to therapy and to healing. Look at the placebo effect. I mean, the fact that we can take a pill that has nothing in it, and in many instances it's virtually indeterminable, that pill with the actual drug which heals that disease, just shows you the power of the mind and the power of the spirit in healing. With doctors, when we have an emotional connection and a bonding with our doctors and trust, that itself often brings healing. But even before, God forbid, you have to go to the doctor, the most important thing with a health problem is really the state of mind. The most powerful organ in our body is the mind. It affects our temperament, it affects our mood, and it affects, your state of mind affects every cell in your body. And many, many diseases, I believe, could be avoided by having a more peaceful set of mind, a more spiritual set of mind, by entering that space inside us, which is unaffected by chaos. Disease comes from chaos, because life is difficult, it's ups and downs, and we have a rough ride. But there's a faith inside you, there's a spirit inside you. If you enter that space, which is not touched by the chaos, then you can find healing within. And that's easier said than done. I mean, I have headaches all the time. I can tell you all about the things I suffer from. But I know from experience, if we go to doctors, they either do one of two things. Either they poison you, or they cut something out of your body. Which does work, and you have to do it if that's your only option. But you can avoid it by doing your spiritual work. By realizing that everything that's coming your way is because your body's telling you a message. The body's so powerful. When it gets ill, it's trying to tell you that you're not treating me properly. God gave you this precious body, this wonderful vessel to which to carry out your mission on this planet. And if you're not treating it right, then it tells you. And that's a great blessing, because before you go to that doctor, before he gives you the medicine or cuts something out, there's something you can do about it. Already when that alarm signal is ringing. And that's really the message of Saras, of spiritual disease. Really all disease comes from a spiritual mindset. Then we read about the mikveh, chapter 15, verse 19, spiritual purity through this ritual bath. Now, I'm going to read you something a little bit spooky. I found it in the writings of Rabbi Menachem Rakanati. Just thought it's rather interesting the way he puts it. I am not permitted to fully disclose the reason why a mikveh must contain 40 sah of water. Sah is a volume measurement. The wise person will understand it from the verse. He was there with God for 40 days and 40 nights. Every day Moses was taught 1 sah of the flow emanating from the supernal covenant, which totals 40 sah. I just found that fascinating. Anytime someone says, I'm not permitted to disclose to you, it instantly wakens you up to listen to what they're saying. But this is such a powerful idea that when we're in the mikveh, really God's supernal covenant, the 40 days and 40 nights which Moses spent up there, that's what we experience when we enter a mikveh and we are purified. We're entering that space of total oneness with God, and we do it with our whole body. Spiritual message for the week? Well, one of the most interesting parts of this Torah portion is the idea of quarantine. When the Saras sufferer gets afflicted, one of the things they have to do is they have to separate themselves from the rest of the community. And we all need that. We need to retreat from our lives once in a while, from time to time, away from the camp to do our inner work. We're all so busy, we're making money, we're healing rifts with our friends and family, we're worrying about, look how much time we spend reading the newspapers and watching the news, as if we're going to make any difference to the issues of our day. We're just reading it and we're getting caught up in the chaos of life. You need to retreat. When is your daily quarantine? When is the moment when you just set aside and say, listen, I'm going to set aside 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's all you need to do some inner work, to focus on how you've treated people in the last day, to worry about what kind of ego manifestations you have, just to close your eyes and spend a moment with God in a mental mikveh. When do you do that? It's so important, and that is the message of the quarantine. That by spending focused time in introspection, the force of reintegration is so much stronger. You bounce back with so much more energy when you take a moment to relax and just enter a space that's within you, which is just not washed away and damaged by the bumpy ride of this world. Thank you for listening, and please join us next week again for Torah in 10.